The last bus. The life insurance was a cruel joke. After 42 years, all it covered was the funeral and a headstone. At 63, I was alone in our small Medford house, a retired teacher's pension stretched tighter than a drum. For the first time in decades, I needed a job. That's how I ended up working the graveyard shift in the billing department at Riverside Medical Center, 3 nights a week, from 3:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. It was numbing work, codes, claims, the dry paperwork of other people's tragedies, but it kept the ghosts in my empty house at bay. Then the city cut the bus budget. The last bus to my neighborhood now left at 11 p.m., a half hour before my shift ended. I couldn't afford to lose those hours, so with my daughter's patient help, I downloaded a rideshare app. That's how I met Ray. His car was a silver Prius, clean but worn. He looked to be in his late 50s with kind eyes and a tired smile. His rating was perfect. On that first Tuesday night, I climbed gingerly into the back. "Long shift?" he asked, his voice gravelly but gentle. "Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday," I replied. "How long have you been driving?" "About 3 years," he said, pulling away from the hospital. "Lost my job at the mill when it closed. This keeps the lights on." There was a familiarity in his weariness. We were two people clinging to the edges, doing what we had to. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. He glanced at me in the rear view, surprise softening his features. "Thank you, ma'am. Most people don't." "It's Carol." "Ray," he said, and he gave me a real smile. The routine. Something shifted after that. 3 nights a week, I'd request a ride. 3 nights a week, it was Ray who accepted. It wasn't coincidence. I realized he was waiting for me, logging on just before my shift ended, positioning himself nearby. We fell into a rhythm. I'd bring 2 cups of terrible hospital coffee. He'd have the heat already on. The 12-minute drive became an island of quiet humanity in my bleak week. He told me about his wife leaving after the mill closed, taking their grown daughter. She didn't leave angry, he said, one rainy October night. She left tired. I couldn't blame her. His voice cracked. "My daughter just had a baby, a little girl. I've only seen pictures." Without thinking, I reached forward and squeezed his shoulder. "She'll come around, Ray." He cleared his throat. "That's kind of you to say, Carol." I started tipping him extra. He'd protest, but I'd insist. "You're keeping an old woman safe. That's worth something." In November, I brought hot chocolate with a candy cane taped to the cup. He laughed, a real warm sound. "My wife used to do little things like this. I didn't appreciate them enough." "You appreciate them now. That's what matters." The warning. It was Thursday, December 14th. Cold had settled into the Oregon Valley like a bone ache. Ray picked me up, but his usual calm was gone. His knuckles were white on the wheel. "Carol," he said, his voice tight, "I need to ask you something serious." He didn't turn toward my street. He drove past it. "Ray, where are we going?" "Somewhere we can talk." He pulled into the deserted lot of a shuttered grocery store. The security light painted his face in harsh relief. "Your neighbor, 3 houses down, gray 2-story, red truck. Do you know him?" "Thomas? Thomas Brenner? We wave, that's it. Why?" Ray took a shaky breath. "I picked him up last Saturday. He was drunk, very drunk, on the phone, arguing." Ray met my eyes in the mirror. "He said your address, Carol. He said the old lady at 847 Cedar is going to be a problem. She sees too much. We need to handle it before she goes to the cops." The air left my lungs. "Handle it?" "There's more," Ray said, pulling out his phone. His hands trembled. I started paying attention, old habit from my security job at the mill. I've picked him up 7 times this month, always drunk, always on the phone. Last night, he swallowed hard. Last night, he said, she works late Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. House is empty. I've been watching. Ice flooded my veins. 2 nights ago, Ray continued, his voice dropping to a whisper, I drove by your street. His truck was parked 2 houses down at 2 a.m., just sitting there, lights off. Tonight, Carol, tonight, before I picked you up, he was at your house. He tried your front door. The world tilted. My coffee threatened to come back up. It was locked. He jiggled the handle, looked in the windows, then went back to his truck to watch. That's when I knew I had to tell you. You can't go home. The reason. We went to the police, not in the morning, now. In the sterile interview room, a detective listened as Ray played audio recordings from his rides. Thomas Brenner's slurred, venomous voice filled the space. Gotta clean this up. The audit. She's in billing. Files. The detective's face hardened. Mrs. Porter, what audit? My mind raced. At the hospital, missing patient files. We've been doing a manual audit in the billing department for weeks. Elderly, Medicaid patients. And Mr. Brenner's employment? The younger officer supplied, checking a tablet. Night shift, assigned to the basement, administrative offices, and record storage. The basement. My basement. The pieces slammed together. The missing files, the fraudulent insurance claims, the audit I was part of. Thomas Brenner worked nights in the same isolated wing I did. He had access. He was stealing files and submitting false claims, and I, unknowingly, was on the team digging into the discrepancies. He wasn't just a creepy neighbor. He was a criminal who thought I was getting close, and he planned to stop me. He was going to search your house for any files or notes, the detective said grimly. And if you'd caught him, handle it doesn't mean have a chat. They put me in a hotel under protective watch. At 6 a.m., the call came. They'd executed a search warrant. Boxes of stolen patient files were in Brenner's garage, evidence of over $200,000 in fraud. He was arrested. I was safe, but I was shattered. The confession. Ray picked me up from the hotel the next morning. No app, no fare. He just came. We drove in silence for a long time. The normal streets of Medford now felt like a set for a horror film. How did you know, Ray? I finally asked, my voice thin. How did you know to listen, to write it all down? He was quiet for a mile. The truth, when it came, was heavier than I expected. My daughter, he said, the words pulled from a deep well of pain. Before my wife left, my daughter had a boyfriend. Seemed fine. Then she mentioned he was driving past her apartment at odd hours, that he always knew where she was. Ray's jaw tightened. I told her she was being paranoid. I didn't listen. I didn't pay attention. He took a shaky breath. One night, he broke in, hurt her, badly. That was the last straw for my wife. She left, took our daughter, and I didn't blame them. I failed them. Tears tracked silently down his weathered cheeks. So now, Carol, I pay attention. I listen when drunk people talk. I notice when someone says, handle it. Because I failed to protect my family once, I won't fail to protect someone ever again. I reached over and took his hand. You saved my life. You saved mine first, he said, squeezing back. You treated me like a person. You brought me coffee. You asked about my day. In this job, you become invisible, but you saw me, so I made sure to see you too. The aftermath. Thomas Brenner got 12 years in federal prison. I testified. Ray testified. His meticulous logs and recordings were the bedrock of the case. Ray kept driving me to work, but now I sat in the front seat. We were no longer driver and passenger. We were comrades in arms, friends forged in the strangest of fires. 6 months later, Ray's phone rang. It was his daughter. She'd read about the case in the paper, about how her father's vigilance had saved a woman's life. "She wants me to meet my granddaughter," Ray told me, his voice thick with a hope I hadn't heard before. "She says maybe it's time to try again." The ripple effect of a small kindness, a cup of coffee, a few dollars tip, a moment of genuine conversation. It didn't just thwart a criminal and save a life. It began to heal a broken family. I'm still in my house on Cedar Street. I still work 3 nights a week, but I'm not lonely. Ray and I have dinner every Sunday. His daughter and her little girl come. They call me Aunt Carol. We are a family, built not from blood, but from the choice to see one another in a world that urges us to look away. Whoever you are, wherever you are, be kind. Not for karma, not for reward, but because the person in front of you is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Your small gesture, that moment of human connection, might be the thread that pulls them back from the edge. It might even be the thread that saves you. Sometimes the quietest people are paying the closest attention. If this story of unexpected friendship and life-saving kindness reminded you that humanity still exists in the dark corners, hit subscribe. For more real, raw stories of connection and quiet courage, you belong here.